As we move into the ceremony, I would urge you, in between people's comments and songs and the activities that will unfold in the next hour, I ask you to join myself and others in remembering those that aren't here with us today, those that their lives were given so that we can have the freedom we do. And it's in remembrance of them that we start our Memorial Day ceremony here at Oak Hill. God bless you.
Hello, welcome to Oak Hill Funeral Home and Cemetery. It's great to see every one of you. Right now it's my great pleasure to introduce the pastor of Fort Robinson Baptist Church, Mr. Dustin Allman.
Let's pray. Father, what a joy and honor it is to be in the presence of so many of our heroes. God, help us just to remember that we are not here to celebrate war or tyranny or even justice, Father, but we are here to celebrate the heroic acts and the courage and the things that embody our military. Father, from Valley Forge to our present circumstances, God, we're thankful. And the very thing that just stirs up a sense of pride in us. Father, that gives us the courage to fight, for us the courage to be bold. Father, thank you for their sacrifice. Thank you for their service. Literally the act of substituting themselves for us, God. And it really makes me think that we don't have these memorials enough. God, but I also thank you that the very things that embody our American military really points to a greater image that we can find in Jesus and his sacrifice and in his service to us, Father, and his courage and the fact that he defeated death to give us freedom. Father, and there are many in the ground, many bodies in the ground right now. But because of your sacrifice, many of them have eternal life, and for that, ultimately, we're thankful. I pray your blessings on the events this afternoon, and once again, just thank you for protecting us, and we absolutely also want to very quickly, I pray for the families affected. In Jesus' name, amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise for the posting of the colors?
Present. Horn.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order. Arm. Post the colors. Forward. One.
Very nice, thank you. I'll take that. Folks, you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'll please be seated. Okay. My name is Charlie Heron. I'm Senior Funeral Assistant here at Oak Hill Funeral Home, and I'm a retired band director of 37 years here in Kingsport City Schools. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the history of the American Legion. The American Legion was chartered and incorporated by Congress in 1919 as a patriotic veterans organization devoted to mutual helpfulness, focusing on service to veterans, service members, and communities. The Legion evolved from a group of war-weary veterans of World War I into one of the nation's largest wartime veterans service organizations, committed to mentoring youth and sponsorship of wholesome programs in our communities, advocating patriotism and honor, promoting strong national security, and continued devotion to our fellow service members and veterans. Excuse me. Hundreds of local American Legion programs and activities strengthen the nation's one community at a time. American Legion Baseball is one of the nation's most successful amateur athletic programs, educating young people about the importance of sportsmanship, citizenship, and fitness. The Heroes to Hometowns program connects local Legionnaires with recovering wounded warriors and their families, providing a variety of support activities. The Legion raises millions of dollars in donations at the local, state, and national levels to help veterans and their families and to provide college scholarship opportunities. The American Legion is a nonpartisan, not-for-profit organization with great political influence perpetuated by its grassroots involvement in the legislation process from local districts to Capitol Hill. Legionnaires' sense of obligation to community, state, and nation drives an honest advocacy for veterans in Washington. The Legion stands behind the issues most important to the nation's veterans community, backed by resolutions passed by volunteer leadership. The American Legion's success depends entirely on active membership, participation, and volunteerism. The organization belongs to the people it serves and the communities in which it thrives. Locally, Kingsport Hammond Post Number 3 and Gate City Post Number 265 serve the families of our veterans by providing an honor guard at veterans' funerals. The ladies and gentlemen involved in this honor guard donate their time to pay tribute to their fallen comrades. They receive no compensation for their time or their transportation costs. They depend entirely on donations. Last year, the Color Guard accorded military honors to nearly 300 fallen comrades in this area. In a moment, when the flag is raised, you will hear a recording of a bugle call performed by a bugler in the United States Army Band. A bugle call is a short tune originating as a military signal announcing scheduled and certain non-scheduled events on a military installation, battlefield, or ship. Historically, bugles, drums, and other loud musical instruments were used for clear communication in the noise and confusion of the battlefield. The bugle call you will hear played is called "To the Colors." This bugle call will be played by a former Marine Corps trumpet player who is in the Marine Corps Band at Quantico. So this year you get to hear it live instead of recorded. "To the Colors" is a bugle call to render honors to the nation. It is used when no band is available to render honors, or in ceremonies requiring honors to the nation more than once, which is what today the bugle call will be used for. "To the Color" commands all the same courtesies as the national anthem. United States Code 36, Section 301 states that during a rendition of the national anthem, when the flag is displayed, all present except those in uniform should stand at attention facing the flag with the right hand over the heart. Members of the armed forces and veterans who are present and not in uniform may render the military salute. Men not in uniform should remove their headdress with the right hand and hold the headdress at the left shoulder, the hand being over the heart. and individuals in uniform should give this military salute at the first note of the anthem and maintain that position until the last note. And when the flag is not displayed, all present should face toward the music and act in the same manner they would as if the flag were there. At this time, I'd like to introduce Vice Mayor Tom Parham and Commander Gerald Cardwell of the American Legion to come forward to the podium for a special presentation.
Let me say first that I'm truly humbled and honored to be part of this very solemn ceremony and have the honor of representing the community and the Kingsport's Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Commander, let me read this to you, and I'll try to be quick. The City of Kingsport hereby honors the American Legion, Hammond Post 3 and 265, and the VFW. Our community has a sacred trust in those who wear the uniform of the United States of America, and we respectfully honor these veterans who have so valiantly served our country in both times of war and peace. These devoted servicemen and women have been and continue to be our best and brightest, serving with honor and valor under the most difficult circumstances and making sacrifices that many cannot begin to imagine. Kingsport proudly honors and recognizes these organizations serving our veterans, advocating on their behalf. With that, our community says thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I always welcome the opportunity to say a few words on behalf of the Legion, and especially this group of guys behind me, because folks, what you see here is a very dedicated bunch of guys who spend a lot of their time and money to perform military honors funerals for our departed comrades. Charlie said most of it. I'm not going to repeat it, but I just would like to catch you up on a few things. To date, we have performed 92 military honors funerals. And we would, while I have an opportunity also, I'd like to do a little recruiting. We would love to have any eligible veteran to join us because, as you all well know, there's strength in numbers. A lot of our members are getting on up in years, and frankly, it's getting kind of hard to stay even. But we would encourage all veterans to come join us, and even if you can't be active, even if you can't join our color guard or attend the meetings or activities, we'd still love to have you because the numbers are important. And with that, again, I'd like to say thank you.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home, my home, sweet home.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our Kingsport Chamber of Commerce CEO, a great community leader and a former, not former, but retired Marine who has spoke at the ceremony a few years ago and is a friend to Kingsport and certainly to the people that serve our country. If you'll join me in welcoming Colonel Miles Burdine.
That's one of those proverbial introducing the introducers. Good morning. Good gosh, is this a beautiful day, a glorious day, a day in which we have the opportunity to honor those who have served before us and given the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our country and allow us to have events like this and to be free to have events like this. If you'll join me one more time, I did want to say and recognize those who have already performed, the Kingsport Police Department, our American Legion. In a little bit, we're going to see some Marines and soldiers to change the colors. And Miss Amanda, who just sang beautifully, 2 beautiful songs. And our American Legion, of course, if you'll join me in saying thank you to them once more. Now to introduce our keynote speaker, simply reading Congressman Phil Roe's bio, I don't feel would do justice to the passion with which our community appreciates and respects him. If there's ever an example of servant leadership, we could hold up Congressman Phil Roe as the perfect example. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. He's a doctor. He served there. He served in the United States Army. He served there. He's now serving in Congress, where he's also offering his opportunity to serve. Servant leadership. Some may be wondering, well, he's in his 3rd term, and he's had very limited opposition. Why is that? Well, it's simple. He represents us well. He represents us the way our conservative communities of the 1st District expect him to represent us. If it has to do with lowering taxes, if it has to do with lowering debt, Congressman Roe is right there. If it has to do with limiting government spending, Congressman Roe is leading the effort. Lowering government spending, excuse me. If it has to do with family values, Congressman Roe is in the forefront. If it has to do with improving our nation's health care, Congressman Roe is a leader. If it has to do with increasing jobs, Congressman Roe is in the forefront again. And last but certainly not least, if it has to do with supporting our nation's veterans, our nation's military, and especially our wounded warriors, Congressman Roe is a leader. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll join me in welcoming the Honorable Congressman of the 1st Judicial District, Congressman Phil Roe.
Thank you. Thank you, Miles, and thank all of you all for coming today and on this gorgeous day. And what a privilege it is to stand beneath this great symbol of freedom here and speak to you all. And before I proceed, as able, if you are a veteran or you're currently serving on active duty, please stand or hold your hand up as able so we can thank you and recognize you here today. So all of our veterans and active duty military, please stand, let's be recognized. Now, before I even start my comments, I want to tell you about a phone call I got about 2 weeks ago. This was from someone who used to work in my office, Ann Russell, who worked in my office in Morristown. And her husband had died, a Vietnam veteran, had died of an Agent Orange related disease problem, and his best friend had just died. And this was in South Carolina, and she had called and said, Phil, she said, we can't get an honor guard for his funeral here at the base where he's to be buried. And I said, well, if he were in the 1st District of Tennessee, we have people like right behind me right here that have provided that 300 times in a year. It's rather remarkable. I want to thank them again because we finally did get an honor guard for the families, and you have no idea how much this means to families. And I can't thank you enough for what you do. I have been to numerous, far too many funerals where they have been there and through, at their own cost, have done this, and it's a true honor for me to be there with them. You know, I was asked yesterday to go to Science Hill High School and speak there, and the theme was, what does Memorial Day mean to me? And I really hadn't thought about it like that until they asked me that. And what they were doing at Science Hill yesterday was there had been 38 young men who've died who have been Science Hill High School graduates who died in combat. And they put a memorial up so when students walk in, they see that. That's the first thing they see when they go to high school, is the people who gave the ultimate sacrifice so they have the privilege and right to go to school. I thought that was a wonderful thing to do. And I thought what I reflected back on was almost exactly 50 years ago today, I graduated from high school. And I was a young man as Vietnam was beginning to crank up and get started, and I had to decide what I was going to do with my life. And I remember as a Boy Scout going and putting flags on graves. And I grew up in a military town, Fort Campbell. I was nearby in Clarksville. And so I really grew up around the military. And I want to share with you, I've understood that it meant freedom and people dying, but until it really affected me, I really hadn't put it to the thought that I should have. And I want to introduce you to some very special guests and friends of mine and some people I don't know very well. But I want to introduce you to a guy I met yesterday for the first time. His name was Homer Pierce. And Homer was a Science Hill, not graduate, but he was 13 years old when he got some guy off the street, cleaned him up, went down to the recruiting station during World War II and convinced the recruiter that this was his dad, and convinced him he was 17 and signed a piece of paper. This young man went in the military when he was 13 years old. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge at 15 years old. He then came back after the war and graduated from high school in 1949, then was commissioned in the military and sadly died in Vietnam. These are the kind of men and women that make this country great, and there are literally thousands of stories, hundreds of thousands of stories like that told every day. Dr. Preston Hubbard, my professor in college in history, never knew this when I was a college student. He was captured in Philippines and survived the Bataan Death March and lived because a friend of his gave him quinine, and he did not die of malaria and his friend did. And Dr. Hubbard told me, he wrote a book called Apocalypse Undone. He never slept through the night. He carried those demons with him until he wrote a book about it. Dr. Hubbard is in his 90s now and has Alzheimer's, but those are the shoulders we stand on. I think one of the greatest honors I have, matter of fact, there's no question about it, when I leave the U.S. Congress, the thing that I will remember the most is Sam Johnson. It's a name probably none of you have heard of in here, and I want you to go home and learn about Sam because I haven't got time to tell you all about him. Sam's about 81 years old now, and he can barely lift his arm he's from Texas, to barely put his voting card in to vote. Sam flew 25 missions in the Korean War, and he was captured in Vietnam and spent 7 years in confinement. He's the longest serving prisoner of war in American history. 42 months of that in solitary confinement and 2 years shackled in chains. This man is one of the most positive people I've ever met in my life and has a smile on his face every time I see him. It is a true privilege, and I tell Sam every time I see him, the biggest honor I'll ever have of serving this Congress is serving with you. First Sergeant Thomas E. Thayer was my scoutmaster. Great guy. I was a Boy Scout, 15 years old. Sergeant Thayer was a first sergeant in the 101st Airborne, 4 children, and sadly was killed in Vietnam in 1965, leaving 4 children at home with no father to take care of them. A phenomenal man. Johnny Parham. Johnny was an Eagle Scout. He was a close friend of mine in high school. He ran on the 2-mile relay team, and I can still see Johnny's face today with his hand out, waiting for me to put a baton in his hand so he could run with it. He died in 1969. He never got to attend a Veterans Memorial event. He didn't get to have a family. He didn't get to serve in Congress. He didn't get to have grandchildren as I have. And because of the sacrifice of these men and many hundreds of thousands like them, we can be here today. A young Frenchman years ago, Alex de Tocqueville, came to the U.S., spent almost a year here in the early 1800s, traveling and finding out what made America great. And you know, today we hear that America has seen its best days, that we're not a great country, we're not a country for good. And de Tocqueville said, you know, America's great not because of its great churches and preachers, and not because of its politicians and institutions, and not because of its great mountains and great plains where we can grow food. He said, America is great, and I paraphrase, because America is good. And when America ceases to be good, America will cease to be great. I say, ladies and gentlemen, America is good. And the question that every veteran out there and every active duty military is asking themselves, some never get this answer, many have. Was my service worth it? Did it matter that I went in, left my family, and many times sacrificed my life? Well, I got that answer 39 years ago. 39 years later, last year. As a congressman, I had the privilege of returning to Korea, where I served in the military at the end of Vietnam. Flew into Korea. I remember this as a young officer, 26 years old, landed at the Seoul airport, machine guns everywhere, military dictatorship in that country. I go back, and a country digging its way out of a war, just repairing from the scars of war. That country was totally annihilated. I go back 39 years later last year, and what do I see? I see a freely elected democracy with a president, the 8th largest economy in the world, 50 million free people. 50 million free people. And picture this. The average South Korean is 7 inches taller than the average North Korean. Why? Because of the democracy they share. And when my driver took me north, back to Camp Casey and the various small posts, Camp Bradley, the other places I was posted, I noticed on the hillsides, much like here, reminds me much of here, the crosses on the hillsides. And I asked my driver, what are those there for? They said, oh, those are the churches that are there. I said, well, tell me about that. And they said, oh, you didn't know? The largest Christian church in the world is in Seoul, Korea. And more people are converting to Christianity than are being born in that country. And thanks to what? Thanks to the American soldier. They are free. They can worship as they please. And look how many lives have been saved. I'm talking about saved into eternity because of what the American soldier has done. I've been to Afghanistan twice and plan a 3rd trip this year sometime later. During a war, there's never been a country in the world that has ever done this. When we went in 2001, 50% of the children did not live to be age 5. Think about that as a parent, that half the children do not live to be age 5. They die of measles, mumps, chickenpox, whooping cough, polio, you name it. And during a wartime, our troops have gone in, our military people have gone in, And we have now only one child in 15 dies by age 5. Are we a country for good? No doubt about it. Is the future of this country bright? Absolutely. And what made me know that was a young junior ROTC cadet came up to me yesterday, a junior in high school, a rising senior. He said, Dr. Roe, I want to go to the military academy. I'm running on the cross country and track team. I'm going to Boys State. The absolute very best and brightest. This young man doesn't know he's going to be successful yet, but I know he is because I know looking forward what's in that young man's future. And I know as long as there are young people like that are continuing to make the sacrifice for this wonderful country and this flag, we will be fine in America. I have no doubt. So the answer to my question 39 years later, was it worth it, is an absolute yes, no doubt about it. And would I do it again? Yes. And would every veteran sitting here doing it again? Yes. The answer is yes. I want to finish by saying to our living veterans out there that also a great privilege I have is serving on the Veterans Affairs Committee in Washington. Let me give you a couple of things that we're working on just briefly that I think are extremely important. Just this past year, we had more active duty military take their own lives, die of suicide, than died in combat. That is a horrible tragedy, not for them only, yes for them, but also for their families. And it's a failure when we see that happen. We have 18 to 22 veterans per day that are committing suicide. That's a real passion I have in my heart, is to help get to those men and find out what their troubles are, and women, and find out what their troubles are and see if we can interject ourselves and change that. If you have any suggestions or anything, I'm more than willing to listen. I can't thank you all enough. And Jantry, thank you for giving me the privilege today on this beautiful day to be in front of this wonderful crowd of people and to celebrate Memorial Day and all the sacrifice. May God bless each and every one of you in this great country. Thank you.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my family by my side, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Folks, at this time, if you'll remain standing, I'm going to ask our honored guest to slip through here and be seated over on the other side. The Kingsport Police Department Honor Guard is going to come and retrieve the colors. And following that, the India Company 3rd Battalion, 25th Marines, and the HTT 3rd 278th Armored Cavalry Regiment, Tennessee Army, will be coming forward to change out the flag. Forward. March.
Lee Chapel Submarine Service.
Johnny Van Zandt, U.S. Army.
Mac Begley, 199th Light Infantry Brigade, U.S. Army.
Paul Bowman, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Army.
John Presley, U.S. Army.
Olin Bowen, U.S. Army.
Frank Castile, Army.
Gerald Cardwell, U.S. Army veteran.
Andy Wilson, United States Marine Corps.
G. Lawson, U.S. Army, Sergeant.
Philip Diggins,
Warren Leeson.
where'd you serve? Army in Panama.
Appreciate you, sir.
Richard L. LeCue, retired U.S. Army.
Richard Brick, U.S. Air Force, and U.S. Army.